Please remember to like and share this podcast. As an Australian, we grow up with Ned Kelly in our bloodstream. You don't really learn the story, you absorb it. The armour, the gang, the final stand at Glenrowan. It's part of our national wallpaper, our history. And if you ever stood on that ground in Glenrowan, as I have, you feel something, a kind of echo of the past. Ned Kelly isn't just a bushranger. He's become a mystic figure, an anti-hero, a symbol of rebellion. And of course, he's long gone, hanged at Melbourne jail in 1880, a defiant end, his death only cementing his legend. And then there's Reg Livermore, another kind of Australian legend, a theatrical powerhouse. People forget how big he was. This is the man who strutted across the stage in fishnets as Frank N Furter in the Rocky Horror Show, who tore up the stage in hair, who brought an electric energy to Jesus Christ Superstar. He shaped the personality of Australian theatre in the 70s. Perhaps, arguably, the greatest time for Australian shows. And in the middle of all that, he wrote a musical about Ned Kelly, a bold, eccentric, homegrown piece that arrived with a bang and then disappeared almost as quickly. Reg has called it a neglected musical, and he's right. Australian musicals rarely get the oxygen they deserve. Producers tend to shy away from them, so Ned Kelly slipped into the abyss, untouched for decades. But now, almost 50 years later, Victorian Opera has hauled it back into the light. First in Ballarat, and then again, more recently, in Melbourne, at the Union Theatre. What's fascinating is hearing Reg reflect on this revival. He talks about rediscovering the work, about meeting his younger self on the page, about seeing the ambition and the madness and the heart of it with fresh eyes. There's pride there, curiosity, and maybe even a little disbelief that this wild, unapologetic Australian musical has finally found its way back to the light and back to the stage. So today I want to share my thoughts as someone who knows the legend of Ned Kelly and who knows the legacy of Reg Livermore and who has just seen the musical reborn on stage. I've just walked in the door after seeing Ned Kelly the musical at the Union Theatre, and believe it or not, I'm now sitting in bed with a cup of cold tea because I've been pondering the whole theatrical experience and letting it wash all over me. It's funny how moments of a show can stay with you on the ride home, and this one certainly had moments that stayed and other moments that maybe didn't stay. There's something about revisiting a piece of Australian mythology that's been told and retold many times, yet still finding new corners to explore. This revival has a scrappy charm to it. You can feel the history in its bones. Simon Holt's musical supervision and new orchestration gives the score a freshness without losing that sort of 1970s grit. The production, it isn't flashy, but it doesn't need to be. In fact, this production, with its minimal staging, often works in its favour, keeping the focus on the performers. Musically, the show is a real blend of styles: folk, rock, opera, a little bit of chamber and choral music thrown in there, even a touch of vaudeville flair and camp that Reg Livermore was, of course, well known for. It's fragmented, and you can tell it must have been a bitch or a beast to pull all those pieces together into something coherent. But within that mix of styles, there are definitely some gems I genuinely enjoyed. I felt the show really started to come together in the first act. It found its feet in the last half hour of Act 1, where everything, the music, the performance, the pacing, seemed to click. Unfortunately, Act 2 2, which starts off really well, does lose a little momentum along the way. Some of the staging of the fight scenes and the shootouts, due to the modest budget, isn't quite as dynamic as it could be. The music is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but the visuals aren't quite up to the same level. In a future production, it would be great to see the staging and the music working together more seamlessly, so one doesn't outshine or underserve the other. I also think the show might benefit from a larger production, maybe a bigger orchestra to give the musical styles room to breathe, and some more visual elements to help the whole show along. A few projections or clearer staging could really help ground the audience so we know exactly where we are. A train station, Glenrowan, the bush, inside, outside. There were moments where I felt a bit lost geographically, and a more defined sense of place would make a big difference. As for the cast, Ethan Jones as Ned Kelly is a standout. He brings a raw, youthful, smiling hero to the role, but his voice, it's his voice that really catches you off guard. Strong, clear, and unexpectedly angelic in the quieter moments. There was one song in particular where I felt a tear or two. I mean, beautiful music can do that to me. Maria Mercedes as Ma Kelly is another powerhouse performer. She grounds the show with a fierce maternal energy that cuts through every scene she's in. Also in the cast, playing Superintendent Hare, is Robert Grubb. He does a fabulous job with a very strong vocal performance. Another person worth noting, Chelsea Dawson, who plays Kelly's sister Kate, and Rowan Campbell, who plays the traitor in the show, Aaron Skerritt. Of course, we have to mention Reg Livermore, who also turns up at the show doing a little cameo as the bank manager. It's brief, but it's memorable, Reg. Musical numbers that I thought were really impressive. Dawson's version of Silverbird. We've got Ned's version, Ned singing Bang Bang and If I Were King. I thought that was a terrific song and a lot of fun also. And as far as the ensemble goes, I don't think you could beat Act 2's opener, which was Gonna Rob a Bank. I thought was a toe-tapping, hip-slapping number that I really, really enjoyed. Now, there's a roughness to this production, sure, but it's the kind of roughness that feels honest, like theatre that knows exactly what it is and isn't trying to pretend to be otherwise. And sitting here, now in bed, thinking about the legacy of Ned Kelly, it's wild how many famous faces have stepped into that armour over the years. Heath Ledger, Mick Jagger, even Yahoo Serious. The mythology just keeps reshaping itself, which is why it would be a real shame if this musical disappeared again for another 50 years. It deserves another audience, another moment in the spotlight. But then, such is life, and such is theatre. You've been listening to Noel Anderson's 15 Minutes of Fame. If you enjoyed this podcast, remember to share it, like it, and subscribe.